We're going to go ahead and get started. We appreciate everyone joining our webinar today, Actionable Steps to Maximize Growth and Profit in Your Tax Prep Business. As people continue to file in, we're going to go ahead and get started for the sake of time. First things, we're going to get some housekeeping matters taken care of first. First of all, let's talk about earning CPE credit. Wolters Kluwer CCH is registered with NASBA as a sponsor of continuing professional education on the National Registry of CPE Sponsors. State boards of accountancy have the final authority on the acceptance of an individual course for CPE credit. Complaints regarding registered sponsors may be submitted to the National Registry of CPE Sponsors through its website at www.nasbaregistry.org. Today's webinar is worth a total of 1 CPE. A total of 5 polls will be conducted throughout the presentation, and you will need to participate in at least 4 of those polls to receive CPE credit. Your certificate will be sent to the email used to register for the webinar within 5 business days after the session. If you do not receive your certificate, please email us at taana-webinars@wolterskluwer.com. Please note that CPE is not available when viewing the on-demand version of this webinar. So now that that is out of the way, we'll go ahead and start our presentation. First, a word about the sponsors. Wolters Kluwer Tax and Accounting is the sponsor of today's webinar, but specifically, the sponsor is TaxWise tax preparation software. TaxWise is one of the pioneer tax prep solutions and a flagship product of Wolters Kluwer Tax and Accounting, and we are happy to be a sponsor of this webinar. Okay, so I think the best thing to do, just to do a level set before we really get started, let's find out who is actually participating in the meeting. As you see here, we want you to answer this first polling question, and that first polling question is just asking what best describes your tax business. If you could take a moment to answer that, we'll give people about a minute, minute and a half to answer that. Okay, see quite a few responses coming in. Thank you for responding. Okay, we'll give people 30 more seconds, and then we will then begin. Okay, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're closing this polling question out here. And so thank you for taking the poll. We had most people answered the polling questions, and we now have a level set. Mostly I see that we have preparers, tax professionals that do a combination of 1040 and business returns. That makes up the majority that we have. And so we're glad to have you. Let's go ahead and begin with an introduction. I'm going to introduce myself, and just so you know, my name is Brandon Sims, and I'm a Senior Marketing Manager with Wolters Kluwer Tax and Accounting. And I am joined today, I have the pleasure of having Shannon Bond, who is our Vice President of our U.S. Prepare Market at Wolters Kluwer. Shannon, great to have you. And I mean, I could go a long time talking about all of the things that Shannon has experience in, but Shannon, there's probably no better person to do that than you. Can you give a brief introduction to our audience?
Yeah, sure. Hey, Brandon. It's great to be here today. Thanks to all of you who are joining us in this virtual environment. Where do I start? It's been a long road. I started off in the tax business almost by accident, and it's just been a fantastic journey over the course of the last 20 plus years. Yeah, I was like 5 when I started. Just kidding. I like to say that because the years go by too quickly, as we all know. Um, Started off with this tax franchise, and we a group of us built that business and grew it into a much larger enterprise, and that was then acquired by one of the larger tax franchises out there. So had the opportunity to work in both those environments. I've been working with TaxWise specifically in that business as a customer, and now here for almost 15 years as part of the product team, and now leading the prepare segment for the last 5 or 6, roughly. Worked with Vita sites over the years, preparers, large businesses, as I said, franchise businesses, individual tax preparers of all shapes and sizes, because that's kind of what makes up our industry, is a plethora of different types of businesses, entrepreneurs. It's been a great journey, and I look forward to sharing some insights and the learnings with our audience today.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Shannon. Really appreciate the introduction. And so, no better person to be here to talk about the subjects we'll be covering today. I'm going to go ahead and just give you a brief summary of what our agenda is today. So, today, if you look at our agenda, the April 15th deadline has just wrapped up. We have, when you get done with the tax deadline, it's a time to relax and just take a breath, the first major deadline that is, but it's also a great time to self reflect. So, we're going to propose some areas to self reflect to see if your business is really where you want it to be. And the best time to really look at that is when you have wrapped up your tax season, at least the 1040 deadline, that is. And then, secondly, we're going to look ahead. Shannon and I were a part of a webinar back last fall where we introduced the findings of the IBIS World Report on the tax preparation industry. In that report, they listed all of the things that occurred in the last 5 years, some great analytical data. Today, we're going to cover what that same report proposes might be in store for the next 5 years, and we'll have Shannon speak on that. The most important part of the presentation, really the meat of the presentation, will be the 4 actionable steps, the areas that drive positive change now, where Shannon is going to share her thoughts and expertise in those areas. And of course, we'll then have conclusion, takeaways, and next steps. So let's get started. Now, the preamble, Shannon, when I saw this quote, Richard Branson, one of the more successful business people in the world, he made it clear. I'm not going to read the full quote here, but what he's basically saying here is if you want to run a successful business and life, you have to have a passion for everything that you're doing in your business. And I think what happens a lot of times is people get worn down and they get in somewhat of a rut, and the passion for doing their tax business kind of leaves them. Would you concur that there's a case of that going in the industry where a lot of people may have lost that dream vision for their business?
Well, I think I like to when I like to put this into perspective of trying to explain what I do in a career day for my daughter when she was like 5 or 6 years old.
Mhm.
There's not a whole lot that's really interesting to 6 year olds about taxes. And so I was trying to talk through with her, what is it that I can relate? How can they relate to this? And so I brought it down to, well, your parents pay taxes so that you can ride the school bus to school, so you can have a nice school, so you can have playgrounds to play on. That's how we all participate in the ecosystem as citizens in our communities to take care of the things that our communities need, our country needs, our state, our county, our city, what have you. So I say that in that tax is not always the thing that everyone wants to talk about at a dinner party, right? So the passion that you have for it, though, what I love to hear from tax professionals is why they do what they do, and it's they want to help people. They want to demystify or decode all of that, all the scariness about the IRS, about what if I don't pay, how much do I pay, what am I going to get back, why did I get this back versus this, and really breaking that down, and being the subject matter expert and helping them understand how it will work. um, but it's hard, right? There are those grinding days when you get too much information from the IRS or not enough information about how to handle a particular situation. Can all be very frustrating, but it's a great quote. I mean, Richard Branson is in a bit more of hospitality type industry for in a lot of cases that maybe brings a little more sexiness than taxes kind of do. But what we do for our customers is the financial stability that they need, um, and they need that expertise. And so if you try to reach back in yourself and know that that's the good you're bringing to the world, so to speak, at the greater good, hopefully it helps drive that passion and rekindle your desire to keep doing what you do.
Absolutely, yes. Good points there. Um, we're talking about possible burnout, but I want to. This really goes well with our next polling question, Shannon, and I wanted to go ahead and launch this next polling question just so we could get a level set on what are tax professionals struggling with right now? Are they struggling? As you can see, there these are some of the main ones. Not saying they're all of them, but we would love people to take an opportunity to answer this polling question, so we can get a feel for what you're dealing with. Very interesting answers coming in. Can't wait to share these with you. Okay, we're going to give just a little more time for everyone to answer. There's still some answers trickling in here. As soon as I see a few, see a quail on the answers, I will go ahead and we'll close this one out and move on. Okay, 10 seconds. We're going to give a 10-second warning. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we're going to close that polling, and then we're going to share the results here. Okay. All right. So when we look at these results, uh, Shannon, I mean, the leading answer is all of the above. Did you notice that? So people are dealing with a lot of different challenges there. That's very interesting.
Leading,
Okay,
but not by too much, right? I mean,
that's true.
it's observationally, I would say good news is that it's not a shrinking profit margin that people are worried about, and the others are uh, those are all things that can be fixed. Like profit margins sometimes driven by what the consumer is doing. They have a little less control in some ways, but there are actions you can take. Um,
Sure,
Technology certainly is one we can help with, Brandon.
absolutely. Yep,
Work and family is a challenge for all of us, no question.
absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for answering the second polling question. We're going to move on. So this next slide, I want to describe what you're looking at here. Some of you may be familiar with the wheel of life. And the wheel of life, as you know, when you have a family, when you have a social life, when you have a thriving tax business, those are all competing interests. And to say that there's anyone out there that has a perfect balance on all of those things is probably a fantasy. But what you certainly don't want, if you look at this wheel of life for this individual that we see here as an example, it's professional development definitely takes a big part of their time and resources. Career takes a pretty good chunk too. But if you look at spiritual and family and social life, those are very small there. So we're asking our attendees to take a self-reflection, because before you can fix a problem, you need to know what the problem is. And so being able to self-reflect and look at what it is that you're giving most of your time and resources to, and do you want to keep it that way, is the first step in changing. So again, in this webinar, we will be looking at ways that you can maybe adjust that work-life balance, increase your profitability, increase business self-sufficiency. Shannon, you and I were talking yesterday. You're on a vacation with your family, you're in the swimming pool teaching your daughter how to swim, and then the phone rings and someone has a problem that they can't fix at the office and you have to kind of jump in. Um, so all of those things, I think, tax professionals to some degree are dealing with. So again, self-reflection, we can't emphasize that enough. Self-reflection is a great thing that every preparer should do after a tax season wraps up. Now, now that we have this out of the way here, Shannon, I've been looking forward to get your thoughts on this. So we talked about the IBIS World Report on the tax preparation industry. They released it back in January of 2023. They provided an update this last fall, and what they gave a 5 year post-mortem of what the last 5 years held. But they also did a 5 year outlook of what they propose might happen in the tax preparation industry. And when I saw this, I was a bit I wouldn't say alarmed, but it was a bit of a head scratcher. Uh, while we had a 3.9% growth in revenue, overall revenue in the industry the last 5 years, they're proposing much less growth. They're also proposing, free e-filing software will continue to grow. The businesses will continue to grow. Going from 147,000 tax prepare businesses to 167,000. And then, the big one I would love your input on is the major industry players. They continue, as we see in a lot of cases, to compete directly with the same market that our tax preparers are dealing with. Can you speak to these? Should we take these with a grain of salt, or should we? Are there some valid arguments made in this report?
I think there's some valid arguments, but yeah, I think there's always, with any data point, um, that's a little, what's the word? The perspective can be slightly skewed. So it's a little difficult, I think, to say that the growth rate will slow to the 1.2%. Um, you have the COVID years impacted in that 3.9, and there was a ton of uncertainty around, what am I going to do? Do I stay in this business? Do I not stay in this business? Do I abandon it altogether because of what's happened, with spouses' obligations and childcare and homeschools and all of those things? I think those factored into the way people may have answered in these survey questions or in their research and polling. Um, but I do think it has slowed slightly. It's a little skewed as far as, you're going to have 167,000 new establishments coming in, is a slower growth rate than what we saw, from the in that 2018 to 2023 perspective. Um, but I think with any kind of complex regulatory situation, consumers look for experts. Now, as their tax obligations, their tax scenarios, and their planning changes with life events that occur for them, that changes the direction. Like we see it with do-it-yourself filers going back to preparers when they're buying a home or getting married, having children, looking for better planning, um, having to send kids to college, etc. Any kind of thing like that that causes you to rethink, what am I doing? Changing jobs even, or starting their own business. Those are all things that create uncertainty for them, that then you need to be positioned as a tax practitioner to help bring them back into the fold. The consumer filing piece, we see growth, on the do-it-yourself side, but we've still seen pretty solid growth coming from the paid preparer side as well. When you look at overall return volume, as it comes in, we see extensions going up, balance due returns are up. Those are all indicators that people's tax statuses and situations are changing. So it's just one of those things you have to continue to keep an eye on, as if the IRS continues down the path of direct file, what kind of impact will that have? And then for other industry players, where they're going into direct to consumer, clearly a differentiator for Wolters Kluwer is everything we do within tax and accounting, and all of the industries that Wolters Kluwer serves globally, is we focus on the professional. So the tool sets that we bring are expressly and exclusively designed to give the professional the tools they need to be able to do more and to maximize profits for their business.
Yeah, good take, Shannon. Thank you for that input. I know I talked with you about the findings of this report when it first came out. So, I see what you're saying there. Thank you for that input. Um, for those of you that would like to learn more about that report, we will be providing some insight on that in future publications and marketing assets. Let's go ahead and again, let's start diving in. As I said, this is really the meat and potatoes of the webinar today, is the actionable steps to help you improve your tax prep business today and plan for future changes. And the big four that Shannon is going to share with us here in a moment is number one of the key actionable steps is leveraging trusted partners. Leveraging trusted partners, upgrading tax technology, which is a very big factor. Shannon, I remember you stated that's a huge factor. And then expanding tax prep services. Number four is investing in a marketing plan. Again, not saying these are all of the actionable steps you can take, but they're definitely big ones. And so, with that said, let's jump right in, Shannon, and I'd love for your take on this first one, leveraging trusted business partners. Um, can you, what are people to look for in a trusted partner, say a technology partner? Could you elaborate on what it means to leverage a trusted business partner?
Yeah, look, I think this is true in business and in your personal life as well. There's in this day and age, it's very easy to start a new business or put something out on the internet. We all know from the tax preparation perspective, you don't have to have a certification to put a shingle out and prepare taxes. That's fine, but you want to make sure that you're choosing someone who has a reputation in your neighborhood as a good tax preparer through referrals from friends, neighbors, coworkers, what have you. You choose people you trust to do business with. And I firmly believe that the way that we at Wolters Kluwer approach business is fundamentally different than those that are playing more on the consumer side. And this is not just a shameless plug. There are things that professionals need um, that we are uniquely positioned to provide. With that, we have an undivided interest in ensuring that you get what you need as a tax preparer and a business owner to really serve the client the way that you need to serve them, not the way someone else says you should. So it's not a one size fits all. We know that. This is why we have multiple tax platforms. This is why we support different size businesses with different tool sets. Again, the tax industry is made up of sole practitioners. We have mom and pops that are doing taxes in their home still. We have retail operations. We have the big four, large customer bases, spans the gamut, but they're not all the same. And so having that trusted partner, that reputable business that's going to be there to stand by you for the long haul, that is going to put the needs of their customers as the foremost in their overall business decisions, and making sure that we look out for what's best for the industry as a whole by partnering. Look, we work with a lot of our other industry partners and ensure that regulations or things that are happening, decisions that are being made about the future of your business or tax regulations, we don't tell the IRS, certainly don't tell the IRS what they should or shouldn't do as far as taxes, but we help guide them. They will ask us as a resource, well, is it better if we go this route, or can you implement it this way? How can you help us? How do we help tax practitioners with things like information security planning? How do we get the word out? How do we help protect people's data? Um, all of the things that practitioners need to be thinking about, having a partner that is representing you in that way ensures the best interests of your business and the future of your business is solidified. And we're going to bring that expertise to you in whatever tool sets you choose and need for your business to make good decisions for now and for the future.
Yep, good point, Shannon. One thing I did want to touch on the tail end of those points there is instilling confidence for the future. Um, Businesses, technology businesses particularly, that are putting the investments in to ensure that the technology is built out to account for all of the changes that are happening in the future. There's so much stuff happening. Am I right, Shannon? There's just a lot going on. It's hard to keep track of it all, correct?
Well, yeah, and in the polling question, everyone, was almost 20%, I think, were saying technology investments was a challenge. Um, you got to invest in technology for the right reasons. Uh, AI being the buzzword of the day, and I think we have more on that kind of enablement later on. But when we look at the buzzword of artificial intelligence or large learning models, et cetera, they have to be implemented properly. You have to ensure that the integrity of the data that is being used to build these learning models is the right data. And that's important if you're gonna trust it as a resource. If you look at research or learning, you want to make sure that the research that you're doing is coming from a trusted source, that it's contained within a trusted source in a trusted environment. I'm certainly not we have a litany of experts around this that are far more well versed on all of the technologies behind this, but I think that's a really important fact, in that you can't just embed something for the sake of embedding it. You have to make sure that it's going to that it's secure, and it's providing the right answers for the right reasons. Technology for technology's sake doesn't serve anyone.
Right. Good point. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you for speaking on this topic here, actionable step number one. Let's move on to actionable step number two. But first, I want to have our attendees complete this next polling question. Now, we know what a fire drill is, right? It's not typically a good thing. When you have a fire drill, it's not because someone's inviting you to a party. Something usually bad is happening. So what we would like our attendees to do is please answer the question and answer us, which fire drill did you experience the most this tax season? We'll give our attendees about a minute, just a little over a minute more here. Okay, answers are continuing to come in. Okay, we're going to give another 10 seconds here. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are over 90% participation here, and we're going to go ahead and close it out. So, Shannon, if we look at these results, wow, it looks like getting documents. Does that surprise you?
No, that's the variable, right? We can give you, when the customer has to take the action, there's no other way we can recreate a document for you. Would if we could, but when you have to have that information, and getting it securely is obviously a concern for everyone in this day and age, with cybersecurity being what it is, and fraudsters, bad actors. But it's getting the client themselves to take action, whether it be through a portal or through a drop-off service or whatever it may be. That's your variable. Not surprising.
Yes.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's close that poll out. We're going to move to actionable step number two. Shannon, this is really one that I think a lot of our attendees will be interested in hearing from you on, is upgrading technology. You know, technology is a wonderful thing, but changing your technology or upgrading your technology can be a bit intimidating sometimes. But the benefits of doing that certainly seem to outweigh the cons, right? Can you elaborate on why upgrading tax technology is so important?
Yeah. Look, I think one of the hardest things for tax preparers is change, but I don't think it's unique to the tax industry. And small business owners are pressed for time, and any type of change has an impact on your efficiency. So completely understand that sometimes these new technologies are one, you're gonna think about how much can I afford to invest versus what's going to be my return on the investment if I make this switch, whether it's money or time or a combination of the two. What are you going to gain from implementing this new technology? And so when we look, and I touched on this in the last one about machine learning and AI and large learning platforms. What we are looking at very intensely is, what are the things that we can embed in our software that can help push more information, better learning, more specialized answers to your questions, so that we're pushing instead of you requesting or pulling. Um, we have AI embedded in so many of our products already. This isn't new. It's just the amplification of it and what is possible overall at creating. When you think about client letters, could we serve a client letter with the information that this tax law has changed and impacted this particular customer in this way? Here's a sample letter you could send. Okay. Now maybe you like it, maybe you want to tweak it. Now you need to be able to edit it. So how do we give you the controls, but also give you the information? That's definitely an efficiency than having to go pull a report, line up the customers, create all the letters. Those kinds of time saving things that ultimately let you do more tax returns or serve more clients better or save more time that you can spend with your family and teach your daughter how to swim, that kind of stuff. Um, those are the real benefits. And again, the benefit is for all shapes and sizes of tax professionals, but not upgrading technology kind of leaves you in the lurch. And if you looked at the answers on that last poll of not getting data from customers is always going to be difficult because they have to take action. But how easy can we make it for them to be able to submit that data? Right? We know lots of people use portals. You still have to have a login. You still have to get through. There has to be the security around it, completely understood. But our mobile tool has been a successful launch as well for preparers to be able to secure information through a mobile tool right from your phone. Take the picture, send it up there, very secure, just like depositing a check nowadays with your bank. Take that picture and it's securely transmitted, and then it's deleted. So those types of implementations of technology are just critical to be able to get to keep customers, to serve new customers, to solve those problems we just identified in the prior poll. And it allows a much tighter, it allows us more opportunities when we think about cloud. And I know for a lot of preparers, I've had this software and I've used it for 15 years, 20 years or longer, and I don't want to change. It's working fine for me. We understand. No one's going to pull that out from underneath you. But in order to amplify technology and assets, and bring about these new technologies and new things, KISS can't do it in desktop environments. And when you're serving such a broad range of customer sets and demographics and personas, understanding the infrastructure within each one of those client habitats or customer habitats, if you will, becomes very difficult to continue to develop around those as those infrastructures change or they need to be upgraded. We have much more flexibility when you're dealing with a browser-based technology that can then just adapt as you open.
Absolutely. No worries about whether you have the most current form, whether your software is
No,
updated, that type of thing.
no, and you don't want to limit yourself to who you can serve, when you can serve them. I think the second thing on the prior poll list was about customers wanting documents at inopportune times. Well, if it's because you're at the grocery store or you're trying to bake a cake for your grandma's birthday, if you can get to it on your phone and send them a secure document without having to have it be so inopportune or tedious or burdensome to be able to do so, then we want to make it easier for you to do that, and you just can't get there in a desktop application.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and you did hit on, Shannon, that it really just opens the playing field up for who you can serve and actually who you can hire. You know, if you're looking for good staff to bring onto your team, maybe you can't find someone locally. You certainly might be able to find them the next state over and be able to have them collaborate with you and join your team through a more, a browser-based virtual environment. So that definitely makes sense. Yeah, thank you for that, Shannon. So for the sake of time, we're going to move on to actionable step 3. Now, actionable step 3, as we mentioned, involves expanding tax prep services. Now, there are, I mean, just on the top of my head, Shannon, there are, when we had attendees answer the poll of, what their specialty business is, we noticed that most of them are 1040 preparers and they do business returns. But there may be those small segments out there that do not, that maybe want to add more services to their menu to offer their clients to maybe pick up business that's being left behind by other smaller accounting firms. And I will say this one more thing, Shannon. Uh, Speaking on the Daniel Hood article of Accounting Today, where he spoke about that smaller accounting firms are in the process of culling their client roles fairly significantly. We're talking about, maybe 4 to 5% of their client roles they're letting go, and they are now searching for a new tax professional. So, can you take
Mhm.
a moment to speak to the opportunities of expanding wallet share, expanding services for tax professionals going into the future?
Yeah, look, I think any kind of diversification you can do as a business owner when it's a core competency and an adjacency that makes sense for your business is the right way to go. We talked in that I'm sorry, in that life cycle slide about professional development was one of the personal development. You're not, most of the people on this call are doing business returns. We saw that. If you can expand that base any, or can you go deeper into a particular niche of customers that you're dealing with? Are you really good with restaurant owners and you know what to look for and what to ask about if they're optimizing all pieces and all facets of the business in the best way that they can? Um, if it's, I've seen preparers that specialize in truck drivers. Now with the gig economy, there's a tons of expertise you can bring to the table in understanding how to help these guys track better. You look at your Uber and Lyft drivers and other gig economy workers. Uh, how are they tracking expenses? What can't they do, and how do you better guide them to be able to do those things? Those are ways to insert yourself as an expert because they're running their own business and they're doing that because it is what works for them in their life. But a lot of them are running more than one of those types of businesses, and how do they optimize that? What can they be doing? If you can become an expert or an advisor, at least for them, I think that's a great area for tax professionals to think about and look into and leverage that expertise in your community or within the population that you serve um, to get that word out.
Uh, and I,
I,
and go ahead, Shannon. Sorry.
no, go ahead, Brandon.
Uh, well, I know that BOI is on the minds of a lot of people now. I know we have a slide here in just a moment where you're going to expand upon, what the outlook for the beneficial ownership information services that preparers can jump into, with caution, of course, and doing it with the right partner. But so let me ask you this: are the expanding services what you're seeing is BOI is probably one of the big ones in the future, possibly for preparers, but also adding other entity returns as well too, Shannon?
I think adding entity returns, if that's a sweet spot for you, amplify it as much as you can. Look for is there particular again industries or some larger industries in your area. I'm not talking about massive corporations. There's a different play for that. But if there's a specialty in a type of industry that you can localize or optimize, definitely go after that. I think beneficial ownership and the BOI piece is something to take advantage of right now, and for the future because now you become a stronger consulting service offering with these businesses of what am I do? What else? What are my other requirements? You have folks using Schedule Cs that probably should be thinking about becoming an LLC or an S corp. Being able to advise them on how to do that. How do they form one? Do you want to get into that part of the business as well? And those are tools we can help with. It all aligns together, right? They're looking for you for advice, and the more advice you can give them, the more valuable your services are, the better that is for your long-term business longevity. And I think on the accounting firm side, where they're getting out of certain types of returns, there is opportunity there to grow on the 1040 side to go after more of those clients. You may be able to save them a little bit of money. They may have been paying more at some of these larger firms. Maybe their return's not as complicated, and you could pick up quite a few of them without a lot of expense and improve your top line revenue by bringing in those new customers.
Yeah, all great points, Shannon. Thank you for that. Um, you know, we get the questions in especially chat rooms or Facebook groups, whatnot. And the next slide I want to share with our attendees, and we shared this. This is a little bit of an expanded graph that we shared once before. Is our friends at NATP provided a 2023 fee study of where's the money at, and what people are charging in certain areas of the United States. And I think if you take what you just said, Shannon, and incorporate, are you charging the right amount of money? That's always a question you're always asking yourself. Am I undercharging? What if I charge them a little bit more? Are they going to go somewhere else? Those are all questions. So I think this is a helpful report too. Um, if you are already offering expanded services in the business area, this report I thought was a really great help to tell you whether you're charging the right amount. But for those that maybe are not offering it, this is a window into what you could make possibly with an expanded client base too.
I wholeheartedly agree. And I think you're uh, looking at it demographically, regionally. What will the market bear in your area? And a lot of tax professionals are seeing a little bit of a shrink on the 1040 side, and definitely a little bit of an uptick on the business side. And I think it's just by virtue of the fact that it's getting very competitive with do it yourself and wanting to keep people out of those tool sets and keep them within your expertise. But too often I hear from customers that haven't really taken a look at their pricing or aren't looking at different ways of adapting. I see practitioners that do early season pricing at one rate, and then as things come in that might be a little more complex, they maybe raise those prices. So considering the types of returns and the timeliness of doing them, you see people charging a premium for the people who come at the last minute. You didn't bring me your stuff until the very last minute, and I'm going to be working extra hours. Well, maybe that, hey, you got to pay more for next day air, right? So if I'm paying a premium,
That's a good
um,
point.
yeah, like just taking a step back and looking at other ways to optimize fees without just maybe going full board across your whole base of clients. But perhaps there is areas, pockets of opportunity that you should dig into a little bit more and see if you can increase in particular spots.
Okay, Shannon, that was a great point there. Um, I want to bring this other slide up here on BOI.
Yeah.
And let's do that because this is an area I wanted you to discuss a little more in depth. There's a lot of questions about BOI. Can you discuss, what it is that the preparer should be concerned with? What is this all about? Is this a business that they want to get involved with?
Yeah, look, I think the big number that should jump up, well, there's two numbers on this page that really should jump out at you, and that is the almost 33 million entities that will be or are required to file the beneficial ownership information with FinCEN. If you're not familiar with it, definitely encourage you to join one of our webinars just to learn about it, see if it's something you want to dive into a little bit deeper. But this is just a filing requirement, and it is they don't have to go in and file every year. But if they don't file by the end of the year, the fines can be over $500 a day. A day. The compliance requirement here is hefty. They're trying to ensure that the beneficial ownership is identified by these S corps and LLCs. We know large corporations already have obligations when it comes to beneficial ownership, but it's these smaller shell companies are looking for ways to avoid money laundering specifically is the target here. And if they know the beneficial owner, they're that are able to track that money through the system. Um, it went into effect January 1st of this year, but the requirement to file for any existing entity is by the end of 2024. And if you create an entity within the year, then you also have, now there's been the guidance from Treasury has been updated recently, and so I think there's still more to come at how this overall implementation goes. But if you open a new business, you have a shorter requirement. You don't have to the end of the year. You have 30, 60, 90 days, dependent on the specific type of entity and dependent on how you interpret the guidance. But let's just say this is all brand new, and a lot of businesses, based on the surveying and the work that we have done in the background, most are not aware that they need to do this. So they're going to their tax preparers, they're asking about it, and there are tool sets that you can use to help. Uh, we have a tool set within the Wolters Kluwer environment that can help you prepare these on behalf of your customers or offer a tool to them to do it themselves. but it helps walk them through and help them understand what it means at each step of the way, so that it makes it a little bit easier to comply. And then once they're done, unless they have changes to the entity structure itself, then they don't have to go back in and do it again. But this is going to be in place now going forward for any new entities that are created as well.
Yeah, definitely. And certainly a great opportunity to expand services in this area, but cautiously, as you say, you need to be linked with a trusted partner, and you need to have the resources needed to be able to offer that service uh, in a good way. I do want to bring attention to the QR code in the lower left-hand corner of our slide here. We will be taking a prepare specific dive into the aspects of the Corporate Transparency Act and beneficial ownership information services. If you would like to be alerted of that upcoming webinar, we would have you scan that. Just put your name and your email in there. We will make sure that you're a part of that specific webinar in the future, which is right around the corner, actually. Thank you, Shannon, for that.
And Brandon, we have a lot of, if you're just curious about it, we have a lot of great resources out on our website as far as just better understanding of the what and the how, and something you may want to consider, dependent on how busy your summer activities are going to be. But I expect this will be a lot more ramp up to this as people get more aware, and that race to the finish line at Christmas to get to that over
Absolutely.
30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that, Shannon. Very sure we have some great resources for people that want to explore that area in depth. Please feel free to do that. But again, register your interest by just scanning the QR code, and we'll inform you of the registration when that opens. Now, let's go to our fourth polling question, and we can take about a minute or so to answer this. This is something that is equally important, uh, very important, I should say, is how are you marketing your business? There's nothing better than word of mouth referrals, but we certainly know that we live in a digital environment where I know Shannon, when I needed help with fixing a plumbing issue at my home, I went to some of my Facebook friends to ask them, hey, who do you use? So let's, let's see how people answer this one. Give a little more time here. Okay, we'll go about 30 more seconds here. We have reaching a good percentage of answers here. Okay, 10 more seconds here. Okay, so we're going to close this out. We've got over 90% that have answered this poll. Wow, it looks like we're in a word of mouth referral business, Shannon. This looks really good.
Hey, it's harder than ever to catch people's eyeballs, but getting that positive word of mouth referral has always been worth its weight in gold.
Definitely. I did note here that we have 22% that said they have no formalized marketing plan currently. Hey, perhaps there's some things we can learn on this next actionable step that Shannon's going to cover. So we're going to close this poll out, and we'll go into our fourth and final actionable step item. And Shannon, want to get your input on investing in a marketing plan. In this past poll, we just saw that there's 22%. That's a pretty significant percentage that really don't have a marketing plan per se. What can you speak to about the tried and true versus some ideas that preparers can use to really get their business coming along with all types of marketing?
Yeah, well, I'll start with the word of mouth referral. Like anything you can do to incent referrals, give your customers an incentive to bring somebody new to you. If you have automation tools that you can leverage to get them to refer a friend, if you're using text messaging or any other automation that saves you time but helps them, I'll give you $20 off your tax prep, or you're offering them coupons to hand out to their customers. everybody's a little different in their approach to this. So you got to find the right comfort level for you and what's right for your type of business. Um, but promoting that and actively participating in securing those referrals is a super important part of the marketing strategy overall, because those are your trusted customers that have come back to you tried and true, are your best source. There's no question, and we saw that very evident by everyone on this call in those responses. um, Facebook continues to be for the tax paying population. I think Facebook is still leading the pack. Um, Although I've seen some pretty creative TikToks from tax professionals trying to capture more of that of the millennial audience and
Yeah,
bring them into the fold.
definitely.
Um, and and hey, it's all, you see the IRS delving into more on on Instagram and trying to kind of change the cultural view and bring people into just getting people to think about something quickly. You've got to grab attention as fast as you can. Nowadays, that's definitely the way to go. Hence the TikTok and the short messaging, and I'm your guy, I'm your gal. Here's why. Here's what I can do. Here's what I've done for others. You got to think about what that elevator pitch looks like and what's the best way to get it out, again, suitable to your practice and your type of business. And I think your point earlier, as we were talking through, having a marketing plan doesn't mean that you've got to sit down and invest, thousands of dollars. But if you haven't done anything different lately, now's a good time as things calm down, or you're still getting through all of those extension filings that are out there to get uh, to sort through and finalize. But think about what the approach looks like for next year. I always find that is there a different tactic you could take? Do you have a Facebook page? Because if you don't, it's super easy to set up a Facebook page, link it back to your website if that's where the bulk of your information is. Think about leveraging a mobile tool if you can to secure to secure the relationship right out of the gate. So you sent them there, but what's the call to action? What do you want them to do? It's not enough to just have a page. Have something on there. You can use assets that, and Brandon, you're the expert on this one, but there are assets that we provide out that you can reshare those things. You can use them in your content in a lot of places. What we share publicly, we've got lots of great content. You can be more active in your community and chambers of commerce or business networking groups or what have you. If you're looking to grow and build more referrals, then be present, be in the community, and leverage. Social is definitely amplifies whatever you do. I think it's really more about thinking through what your value proposition is and what your differentiator could be, and how do you encapsulate that to capture the eyeballs and take action on calling you or communicating with you. Here, click send me an email here, or here's some content that I have that you might be interested in. BOI is a great opportunity for that, right? You want to become the expert in your area around what's required and who's required to do it. Put it out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, with when you think about networking opportunities too, like the different shows that people go to, there's a lot of opportunities to join forces
Yeah.
with other people. The other thing too is using mobile technology, like you spoke to, Shannon. TaxWise Online, TaxWise Mobile. There's a lot of opportunities to market your business. Great points on all of those. We are closing in on our time, and I wanted to put up our final polling question here. So if we can take, what are you most interested in learning more about? And if we could have people answer that, this will be our final polling question. And then we'll move on to closing out our presentation here. We still have some good stuff to go over before we close it out officially. Okay, so we're getting some good responses here.
Quickly, Brandon, while we have people answering this last polling question, I've received, hello, by the way, I am your a voice of God moderator in the background answering your Q&A. I've received a lot of questions about the BOI webinar. Uh, when this polling question closes, I will drop the link to the registration page. The URL for the webinar registration is not live. So what I'm going to put in is a link to the landing page so that you can sign up and be notified as soon as that goes live. I will also make sure to include a link to our resource page. It includes, as Shannon mentioned, that's the resource that she was referring to. It has a significant amount of information on there. So I'm going to go ahead and drop both of those in there, and we'll make sure, Brendan, I think when we send that follow-up email that we can send those out as well. And I wanted to bring up, I'm going to end the poll, and then I did actually have a couple of questions that came up
Great. Yeah. Thank
for
you,
you.
Hillary.
There was one actually that just came, and I thought that this was really interesting. And it was actually asking, you know, this person said, can you help us out with some of the products that would fit those actionable items that you were talking about? How do they line up? And then similarly, um, there was a specific question, and it tied back to that document polling question. I think that challenge that was talking about something cloud-based to help handle documents and scanned documents. So those, I thought that that might be a
Yep.
great question because I know we only have a small amount of time left.
Yeah, I can speed share on that one. We have a little bit. TaxWise Online has a vault feature built into it. So if you're looking for a better way to collect documentation, um, our mobile tool feeds whatever documents that as I described it earlier. You can literally take a picture of the document. That document then feeds into our TaxWise Online product. You then open the return. It's pre-populated with as much data as the client chose to put in. So don't think of this as a comprehensive interview that they have to go through. They can submit it with as much or as little data as they want. So if you're using it as a lead generator or lead capture, you're going to get the information, they send it in, and then you take it from there. You can have whatever type of communication back to the customer you need. We have OCR capabilities built into that to read the W-2 and feed that data in there. So it's super easy, and they can go back in later if they have another document and send it back up, and it stores with the tax return inside TaxWise Online. So both of those tools would help solve that question, solve that problem, and capturing it in the moment so they don't have to wait. Was there a
Excellent.
second
Thank
part
you.
to that, or did I capture it? We're out of time.
No,
Thank you. Right.
No, I think you hit it, but yes, we are unfortunately out of time. And I know that we didn't get to everyone's questions because there were definitely some questions about how people are handling things. So, Brandon, I know you have some action items. And for those of you whose questions we did not have a chance to get to today, we will follow up via email. Don't worry, we will go ahead and send those out to you all after the presentation.
Yes, thanks, Hillary. We will close it out on for the sake of time. We do want to close with this, though. Uh, are you ready to take the next step toward improving your tax preparation practice? We have some resources that we would encourage our attendees to check into. You know, if you're interested in the BOI Corporate Transparency webinar that we are going to be holding here shortly, please, you can click this link in the screen here, or you can take a picture of the QR code. It will take you to a page where you can take advantage of a lot of different resources that we have that are free. If you're looking at a live demo of our TaxWise Online tax preparation software that Shannon spoke of, that's also available there. If you're interested in CCH Answer Connect with Gen AI functionality, we encourage you, hey, give it a try. uh, this is the time to do this type of thing in the off season right after the filing deadline. And we think you might find that these will be helpful resources for you. So with that said, we want to thank everyone for attending our event today. Um, we appreciate you being here. Again, as Hillary said, if you have any follow-up questions, we will be following up with each one of you accordingly to get your questions answered and help you in other ways. Have a great bit of time in the off season here where you maybe get a vacation in, but we really do appreciate you attending. Have a great day. Thank you, Shannon, for joining.
Thank you.